G'day, welcome to Todd's Kitchen. This is an all-time recipe that turns one of the cheapest, driest, toughest cuts of meat around. It's actually pretty simple to do, but it turns something crap into something absolutely delicious and mouth-watering. So join me today as I show you how to smoke and cook a brisket. Now we're going to start this off by making our mop sauce. And this is what we're going to use to keep our brisket nice and moist throughout the smoking and cooking process. So I'm going to start off with 2 cups of beef broth or beef stock. And to that I'm going to add 2 tablespoons of Worcestershire sauce. And about 1/4 cup of apple cider vinegar. Then we're simply going to transfer that to a clean spray bottle. Okay, so we have our brisket here. Now you've got to have 2 sides. You're going to have one with hardly any fat. And the other side where it's got, well, obviously a lot thicker fat. Now some people like to remove the fat. Honestly, leave it on, because that's where half of your flavour is going to come from. But a lot of the fat's going to drip into the meat, keeping it moist, and trust me, the flavour is unbelievable. So we're going to start by seasoning our brisket. Now personally, I like to use 3 different types of seasoning. And for my first one, I'm going to use a garlic seasoning. So just give that a good spread on top. And then I'm going to season it with some salt. And finally, black pepper. And just give that a pat in so we can work that seasoning into the meat, just so it sticks. Then we're just going to flip it over and we're going to do the exact same thing all over again. So I'm going to start with my garlic, my salt and pepper. Now there are many different flavours of wood that you can use. Personally, I'm going to do some hickory for this one, but my other favourite is also cherry. Okay, so once we've got our smoker up and running, we're going to place our brisket straight on the smoker. And we're going to give it a first spray with our mop sauce. Now as always, make sure this is on indirect heat when you have it in the smoker. You don't want to directly cook it, we're just smoking it to get that lovely flavour in. Now ideally, you're going to want to smoke this for a good 4 hours. But if you're in a rush, 3 hours is fine, as a bare minimum. So with our brisket on our smoker, fat side up, we're going to seal off our smoker and we're going to let that smoke away for a good 4 hours. Now it's very important, don't keep on opening up the lid to check it, because you're just going to make the cooking process even longer. The only time you want to do that is once an hour, every hour, just to give it a quick baste, just to keep it nice and moist. But apart from that, just let it do its thing. Now our brisket has been smoking away for 4 hours. And would you look at that? It's starting to go slightly dark and pink on the outside, which is a result of that lovely smoke penetrating the meat. Okay, now if you're confident in controlling the temperature of your grill, we're going to run it up to about 225 degrees Fahrenheit or 110 degrees Celsius. But of course, if you just have a smoker and not a grill where you can control the temperature a lot easier, you can also do this stage in the oven. Okay, so this stage is going to take some time. You're looking at about between 4 to 6 hours, because we are slow cooking it, and trust me, it takes a while, but every minute that you let it sit at a lower temperature to raise up slowly is worth it. So I'm going to add a thermometer in mine. Or you can use one of those instant read ones every now and then. And we're going to let it slow cook away over this temperature until it reaches 195 degrees Fahrenheit or 90 degrees Celsius. And I found that is the optimum temperature for a nice juicy piece of brisket. And for the next 4 to 6 hours, just every say hour and a half, just give it a quick baste just to keep the moisture in. Just so it doesn't dry out completely. And it's that simple. So the key for this is low temperature and a lot of time. But trust me, it is worth every second of it. Okay, so I've just taken our brisket off the grill. Now obviously it's dark outside, so I'm going to do the rest inside. And all up, the cooking process took 7 hours. So it took about an extra hour to get to the temperature that I wanted. But that really just comes down to the meat itself and how thick it is. You know, there are a few factors. So all up, with smoking and cooking, this has been going for a good 11 hours. So you know it's going to be fantastic. So all you have to do now, I've got some foil. So we're just going to wrap it up tightly in this foil. And then what we're going to do is, we're going to place it into a cooler, an insulated cooler. Then we're just going to seal that up so it's nice and tight. And we're going to let that sit there for a minimum of 30 minutes. Now ideally, If you have time, let it go for up to 2 hours. But by keeping it in the foil and in an insulated container, it's going to help keep the heat in the meat. But most importantly, what you're doing is you're letting it rest. And by letting it rest, it's going to allow all the juices to go back into the muscle and the meat. So while it might seem annoying having to wait a little bit longer, trust me, you're going to get a lovely, moist piece of brisket once it's done. So when it comes to cooking brisket, time is everything. Now I've had our brisket resting for over an hour now, so now it's time to cut in. Oh my, just look at the juices oozing from that lovely moist brisket. It's like a waterfall. How good is that? And that lovely smoke ring on the outside. And just my luck, I cut in the side that had the most fat, but that's no issue, just cut that away before you serve it. Now, have you ever seen such a juicy, succulent piece of meat? And to think this was originally one of those tougher, cheaper slices of meat too. So with time and patience, it turns into something wonderful. And with smoking, I really love how it leaves that smoke ring on the outside. It just adds to the flavour and the look. And there certainly is something unique about brisket, but when you serve it with anything, to be honest, as long as it's cooked the right way, it's always going to taste simply delish. And while of course it's better to have a dedicated smoker, you can use a cheaper one just to smoke it, then cook the rest in the oven. So thank you for watching this episode of Todd's Kitchen. As always, I'll leave a list of ingredients down below, as well as links to my Facebook, Twitter, Instagram and Home Handy Hints channel. And please do me a massive favour by giving this video a thumbs up, leave a comment and subscribe, and I'll see you next time for another delicious recipe.